Welcome back to Two Crows Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Holmes, and we have a guest, Brie, on today. I keep forgetting that I put my non mirrored camera on. Brie on today, and she is here to talk to us about some of her skills and things that she can offer to all of you if you're ever interested. So, why don't you give us a little intro about what it is you do and where they can find you?
Well, hi, I'm Brie James. I go by Ope It's a Witch or the Green Eyed Witch on TikTok, which you can find me on TikTok at Ope It's Witchy Wears. I have a website. I'm a spiritual counselor. I'm an intuitive reader and a tarot reader. I also make a lot of spiritual items, and yeah.
Exactly, they're all wonderful, and we'll put all of those handles and any websites in the description. So if you want to go down there, y'all, you can go find her. So how did you get into all of this?
So I've always been kind of interested in the occult since my childhood and teen years, but never pursued anything like seriously. Just drawn to crystals and things like that. It wasn't up until a little over 3 years ago when I had met kind of a mutual friend. She is the sister of the person that my best friend was dating. And she had a reader group, and my friend was just trying to get a free reading from something that they were offering. And this woman she told me to, post your picture and just, do it with me for fun. And it ended up being this like 4 or 5 hour long conversation of me speaking to this woman, and her telling me things that there's no way of her knowing, even things I hadn't even disclosed with my best friend. Um, and after that, I had quite a lot of intense spiritual experiences and was kind of relaying those back to her. And she offered to more or less test me
Mhm.
intuitively. And it's kind of been say la vie since then.
Oh, that's amazing. I have a lot of friends who have a lot of those empathic uh, feelings towards other people, and some of them channel it, some of them don't. And I feel like it's if you have a gift, you should grow it and use it to help others. That's really awesome. I've been doing card readings for a long time, but I've never charged or anything for them. And I only do them if I feel led to do. I'm like, I don't want to just read for anybody.
That's fair. And it can be a little intimidating. Some people's energy is a little bit difficult than others, depending on either how well their energy is protected, how kind of strong their ego is more of like that crust that keeps us separated from the veil. Um, so I've had a few, I've yet to have a bad reading, thankfully, but I've had a few readings where it's like, what is going on here? And it takes just a little extra time to like weed through all of that energy.
Hmm. I've had readings done for me, and I can very much tell when they're just trying to make money or if they actually care about what they're doing, which makes a
Yes.
huge difference. Have you run into other people in the industry with that?
I have. Since I started my TikTok a while ago, I did lose a rather large account due to a lot of like false reporting and things like that, which had nothing to do with my reading content. When I had first made my account, it was just kind of me going through my like a way to push forward in my healing journey and share some of my experiences. And then when I wanted to start adding my reading to it, it just turned into this cluster mess of all kinds of stuff. So the engagement was weird. So I started getting a lot of weird reports on some of my more goofy TikToks, and that inevitably ended up having me lose my account. But in a way, it was a blessing because now I have two separate accounts. I have one where I just kind of goof troop around on, and then I have the one that is solely designated for my business. And ADHD completely.
That's okay.
Where were we going with this? um,
No, that
Oh,
answered the
oh, other
question.
people in the industry,
Yeah, yeah.
and when I started growing my following and started doing more readings, it started connecting me with other readers. I have one solid friend. She also reads as well, but she's been, kind of pulling back from that, just kind of dealing with things in her own life. But it's nice to have somebody else who doesn't think you're a total Looney Tunes Magoons to kind of bounce things off of when you're struggling trying to sort out your own energy and situations and even abilities.
Definitely. I struggle with that, and I don't know if it's a mixture of like my empathy as well as like being autistic, but I struggle with knowing which feelings are mine or the people around me. And so having the exercises to figure that out is probably big, and having someone to bounce that off of and try to sort out. It's kind of like having a spiritual therapist.
Yes, yes, in a lot of ways, and that's a big part of what I do with the spiritual counseling specifically. It's very broad in what services I provide during that kind of a session with somebody. Some people come to me to learn how to strengthen their abilities. Some people just really need a safe space to speak to somebody, and they can't really afford or go through like a traditional therapeutic route, like going to see a psychologist and things like that. If I have anyone that which hasn't really happened yet, but if someone does come in and it's kind of like, this is a little, you really should probably go see a medical professional, I will refer somebody, but I haven't really run into that too much. A lot of it is teaching people how to differentiate between your energy and then influential energy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think that you have to be right next to somebody in order for their energy to affect you. And often that is very much not the case. You'll be sitting completely alone in your home and you're like, why am I so anxious and nervous? Like for the last half hour, there's no reason. There's no reason for this. Like, and I even feel fine, and I'm aware I feel fine.
Hmm.
And then you get a phone call from someone who's having like they want to talk to you, but they're nervous about what they're talking about. An example of like that.
Oh, definitely. I have a best friend that anytime either of us are going through a hard time and before we even reach out to that person, we can already feel it. And I really believe in those connections that we build between people, whether they're positive or negative.
Yeah.
Because I can also feel it with some toxic family members as well that I don't want to be connected to. But yeah, that's huge. And I'm glad that you do what you do, because both our mental and spiritual parts of our, I've been sewing faux fur on things, so I have it flying all over the place.
Love it.
That wasn't an orb. No. So, but yeah, they both go hand in hand. And if one is unhealthy, I feel like it drags the other one down.
Absolutely. And you can, um, if you're not able to, a lot of issues that will come with people that are what we would call awakening to the veil, to their own abilities, to things
Mhm.
like that. If you're not able to ground yourself mentally, energetically, and other things like that, you can, in fact, induce a form of spiritual psychosis, and that can be extremely dangerous. Another big part of why I try to provide my services for people that just feel like they're going crazy and kind of talk them down from the tree of like, well, let's see if we can't make this make sense in your 3D as well as in your 5D.
Yeah. Do you do like one-time sessions, or do you bring on clients that you see like regularly, like a mental health therapist?
So it's a little bit of both. I have people that do come back. It's not as frequent, like, once a week or something like that, like you would see with, normal counseling or psychology session. I did go to school for psychology, but once it started getting more into the clinical, it just was something I didn't want to really be a part of. And this was even before I went my spiritual counseling route. But I found that it was a good way to kind of mesh the two worlds together. And they also, having that kind of background helped me in my own journey. Um, and so I have people that are somewhat regular where it's like maybe once every couple of months, but I also don't stick it to just a 1 hour session. I've
Hmm.
had sessions go upwards of 6 hours. It really depends. I like to take my time with somebody, and it really just depends on what they're going through. And that was a big part of what I had an issue with traditional psychology, is that they're very much like a lot of modern medicine. It's kind of more of the agenda to keep somebody sick or to keep somebody either, constantly needing medications or things like that. And I don't ever encourage them to go off of any kind of medication or anything like that. But it's more of like, you can't get really much of a breakthrough with somebody within an hour. You can within 2 to 3 hours,
Hmm.
because then you have them kind of releasing and processing. You're able to give a little bit of feedback, and you'll find that often a lot of people just need that space to be able to say something out loud, to be able to fully process it. And if you give them the full amount of time that they need to do so, they get hit those epiphanies a lot faster than what would potentially take, months or even years with a normal clinical setting of like a having meetings with a psychologist.
I feel like that's why mental health retreats work so much better than
Yeah.
just going and meeting with a therapist too.
No, I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah. Because then
Uh,
you're immersed in it and
mhm.
there's enough of a break, but it's not so much of you don't really hit that real nitty gritty of something and then have to wait a whole other week. You're just constantly immersed in the
Yeah.
environment.
And for me, between my one appointment where we didn't finish everything and the next one, new stuff comes up too. So you never end up actually dealing fully with that stuff from the beginning.
Right. It's just more about having that, making someone in this state of just constant prolonged care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I've been in therapy since I was 7. Oh gosh. I feel like it's more to make someone be my friend for an hour.
You know what? And sometimes you need that too.
They're like, we'll get paid. It's fine. No, it's been great. I love so I mean I've had have you had clients? So I know it's like this in other therapies, but have you had clients that you've had to say a different medium would be better for you? Like we're not really vibing and connecting?
Not really. The only time I've ever faced an issue is with um some of my male clients who really only accept my or like purchase my services in order to try to get some kind of
Hmm.
in with me, to be able to like communicate with me personally and things like that. And that's where I've seen some of my issues, because a big part of what I do as well is um, trying to create emotional safe spaces for men and helping them with their emotional maturity, their spiritual growth. And a lot of them that really don't have any interest, they kind of put that facade of wanting that growth. Um, they have a hard time disconnecting with actually taking advantage of the real service and just, listening to me talk, or, throwing out these little, you know, trigger words, spiritual trigger words that they pick up on TikTok. And I can usually pick up on that relatively quickly, but it's still that I still try, it's
Yeah,
like maybe
yeah.
I can still try to get through to you. And then after the session is over, there's a lot of unprofessional conversation that they try to engage with. And I'm like, that's not what this is, bud.
I understand that.
Yeah,
Oh, especially when you're very clear about providing what service you are giving them and they're providing it money for that service and you're giving them exactly what they paid for, but they seem to think that since they gave you money, they have access to more than that.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
never appropriate. So all of you listeners, if that's the reason you're getting a hold of her, shame on you.
Don't do it. I got a different website than that. No, I'm just
Exactly.
kidding.
And that's websites also exactly what we say it is.
Right. Right. You know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what's going on going
Exactly.
in.
And tipping does not mean that we owe you anything else.
That's another thing too. Yeah, when they'll just like forthright give, you haven't even asked for anything, and it's like they portray it as like a donation or a tip or something like that, and then, oh, but I did this, so now you owe me this, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, no, I don't actually. So sorry.
Tips me for my services. that I
Right.
already gave you.
Right. I already knew that that session was awesome. Thank you for confirming.
Oh, it's amazing. It is validating to receive a tip. So if you want to just
Yeah.
validate us, feel free.
Right.
So when you are going into a session, are there different types of sessions that you have?
Yeah. So, kind of like I was touching on before, I have clients that, um, so I do like readings. So I offer different types of readings and let people choose between those. But as far as like the spiritual counseling sessions, I have people that are coming in and they're wanting to kind of learn how to do shadow work on TikTok, especially. This has been kind of booming with people wanting my services with that shadow book, the
Yeah.
shadow work journal. And although I think it's an amazing tool for it to help people become self-aware, it's like you are really just scratching the surface and it really doesn't explain kind of how you break that down.
Yeah, that was
So,
my thought exactly with that. And it's more of a, it is a tool. It's a tool that you
yeah,
use with skills you already have. So if you don't have those skills and you receive a tool, you don't really know how to use it.
correct. Correct. So it's more of just like this glorified little let's be sad about stuff journal, and it doesn't offer a lot for like replacing that or even processing what that actually triggers. Because some of what I've read in it, it's like it would put someone in a trigger state of yes, you're kind of in this regressive state of like going back to old memories and reliving old traumas, but it's not teaching them how to break down those events and break down kind of where they would affect them today. Um, and that's the biggest issue. So I've had more people coming in thinking that shadow work is one thing when shadow work isn't just, you know, thinking about all the bad stuff that happened and being like, oh, yeah, that's bad stuff that happened. It's about integrating your shadow so that you're taking these kind of more challenging situations that have happened through your life and how they have affected your personality and transmuting them into something that's going to be positive and benefit you going forward. And a great example of that is I like to use rage as an example of that. By societal standards, everyone wants to repress and push down rage because, oh, if you're mad about something or if you feel certain, like if you're feeling that kind of explosive anger, then oh, then you're out of check and you're the problem. When at the end of the day, rage could very much save your life. Depending on the situation, it's more about being able to harness and transmute, again, that word, that energy, and making it work for you and not letting it control you.
That's huge. And
Yeah.
there really needs to be more openness about that because I feel like people either don't talk about their rage or anger
Yeah.
because we're taught as children that that's wrong. To
Right. Don't be upset, don't do this. Yeah.
to even feel it, we're wrong.
Yeah.
So people end up really going into their shells when they're feeling any sort of what we consider a negative emotion, whether it's
Right.
sadness, depression, anger, anxiety, and we end up isolating ourselves.
Yeah, because
And
we start attaching that shame to it when it's nothing to be ashamed of. If someone's wronging you, you have a right. That's an appropriate emotional reaction to be upset about it.
yeah, and if we never figure out how to channel it in a positive way or a way that is beneficial to us, then we'll never be able to actually deal with those emotions.
No. Or they can end up coming out more negatively where you're repressing, 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 and then all of a sudden there's this big explosion and you're overly upset about something that could have, been normally upset, but just now you're taking it out on loved ones, you're taking it out on coworkers and things like that, or even to the point of harming other people. Where if you're able to break down and process that as well as be able to express and feel those emotions in a healthy way, you find a lot of that kind of dissipates where you won't have these explosive outbursts that even you feel out of control of.
Definitely. Yeah, that was something I grew up very ashamed of, is having any sort of negative feeling. And so I ended up just being really quiet. I was dealing with chronic medical conditions that I ended up never addressing until I was an adult because I felt so bad saying that I was always in pain, that I was always dizzy and nauseous, and I never felt good.
Yeah.
And it's just, and people act like we're just supposed to see the bright side of everything. No, we need to actually deal with what's causing those things.
Yeah, no, no, and that some it often will come in to play, especially if you feel like you're responsible for regulating your parents' emotions as well,
Oh my
where you
gosh,
feel,
yes.
yeah, where you and when you feel like you can't, express when something is wrong with you because, oh, well, that makes me a burden, or that makes me too much, or they're going to react this certain way, and all I want is help, and that can be extremely detrimental, especially when growing up. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to deal with that.
even yeah, because even when dealing with normal, like adolescent things, it was a burden to my mother.
Yeah,
And I know that she watches my podcast, so I never say anything to like too big, but I'm honest and she knows I'm
yeah,
honest, and I've been very honest with her about how it felt growing up. And so I'm not ashamed of her watching any of this, but it was, I never knew which version of her I was going to get coming home.
yeah.
And so I didn't want to bring up any of the issues with me. There was a time I had pneumonia and she kept telling me I was faking being sick, and I was like, maybe I am. Like, I in my head like kept thinking maybe I am faking it and I'm making myself sick. Finally, she took my temperature. It was like over 102, and
Oh
we
my
went into the
gosh,
doctor and I had pneumonia. And I'm like, I was sick.
I was right. I had similar experiences, especially when it came, but in almost in an opposite way. My mother was a medical professional and is a nurse now, so I was afraid to bring up anything of feeling sick or anything like that because she more or less would try to play doctor at home, and some of that got very, very not okay and very scary. So um, it's a lot, and it's there's that understanding of unhealed people will hurt others, even if it's not intentional and things like that. But it still has quite a bit of an effect on us as we grow up and as we learn to parent our own children and things like
Oh,
that.
yes. I like overly believe believe them when they say they're sick now.
Right.
to the
Absolutely.
to the point where they get away with staying home when they shouldn't.
We do what we can.
I know we often swing the other way with things. We'll either do exactly what our parents did and excuse it as what we grew up with, or we'll swing the other way and be like, I want to be nothing like them. So,
No, I'm also struggling in that area of, not to get too deep or too, anything, but there was a lot of physical aspects of, kind of that if it's not listening, or if it doesn't work, you hit it to make it work. Where I'm currently dealing with other things, but as my daughter has been getting older, it's like I don't know if I can punish you. I don't know how. Like what is punishment that isn't scary? I don't know. So that's been my struggle of, how do I make sure that I'm establishing boundaries and, things like that, with my own kiddo, with
mhm.
it not ever going to that place.
Yeah, having the mutual respect and having the, I don't know, it's hardest with my 14-year-old right now, but just having that mutual respect. There is none towards me right now, and it's really hard to have it towards them because it's
Well, yeah. And teens are, I mean, let's be honest, even, regardless of our parents or otherwise, us personally as teen, we're awful. We suck. I mean, we're just trying to figure it out, but like we're not only dealing with like the monthly hormonal things that we go through, but just constant state of hormonal changes, plus everything that you deal with in high school, plus whatever home dynamic you're trying to sort through. It's a lot, and it can not all of it is, none of it really is our fault, but at that age, it's like I even knew, regardless of what was going on at home, that I was a bit of a nightmare because I was just trying to figure myself out, and there's really no like magic anything that's going to fix that. It's more of just like letting time go on and letting those hormones and other things kind of regulate out on their own.
yeah, and having outside people you can talk to and realize that what you're going through is like you're valid in your feelings, that it'll be
Yeah.
okay, it will pass.
Right.
They
Right.
will they will become adults someday.
Right? No, absolutely. I have a lot of clients that actually are currently dealing with not so much having issue with their teenage sons. It's more a lot of the teenage daughters. And it's like, just remember when we were that age, the hormones were wild and crazy, and it was just biology that was our worst enemy at that
Oh my
point.
gosh, right? See, my girls are almost let's see, 11 and 12. So they're about to have birthdays. And then my boys are 14 and 16. And so I feel like they're all going through hormones at the same time because girls go through it earlier, boys go through it
Oh my
later.
God. Yeah.
Oh, so there's just so much. I'm like, I just keep a chocolate supply and
Right. Oh, I love it.
oh gosh, and anything. I like trying to get my 14-year-old to do any activity. I'm like, just pick anything. I don't care what it is. Dance, robotics, a sport. I don't care. Like, just pick
Right. Just
something.
get some stimulation somewhere else other than social media and your peers.
Yeah, and meet some good people.
Right. That's another struggle of keeping them, it's hard to say because you don't want to say the wrong crowd, but not everyone's kids have the best intention. And when you can kind of
Mhm.
outwardly see that, you're like, can we just kind of avoid this particular person right now?
Yeah. Luckily for
Yeah.
me now, he legally has to avoid them. So,
Well, that's good. That's good.
like, it's out of my hands, not even my fault. So,
Well, then there's a double win there. I don't have to take the blame for
oh.
this, and also we have the outcome we needed.
And individually, they're not bad kids. It's when they get
Oh,
together
yeah,
and they feed off each other's bad ideas, and no one is a
yeah,
voice of reason.
yeah.
They need to add one in that like is the boring one that they're like kind of sad they're there, but at the same time glad they're not getting in trouble.
Right, right. You need that in every movie. There's always that one kid in the group. Where's that in real life? Where's
Yeah.
that one in real life?
Yeah, none of them have glasses. We need to find one with glasses.
There we go. And they've got a book glued to their hand, and it's some kind of social book. That's all you need to know. That's all
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
is.
And they're constantly spouting out little philosophical things they learned from the books.
I think honestly, I think I might have been that kid. Like thinking back on it,
I was
and I was
that
when I
kid.
was older. Yeah, I was like, maybe let's not throw eggs at this person's house and go and do this instead.
Yeah,
I don't feel like jumping fences right now.
I never did any of that stuff.
Yeah, no.
The worst I did was we had a dental office next to our house, and there was an elevator in there, and like it was public space, you can go in there.
Yeah,
But there was an elevator, and I we realized there were doors to the back as well as the front, but there were no buttons for the back.
yeah,
We were like, where does this go? So we went like all the way up and down. It never opened for any of the floors. And so each floor we like were opening it and seeing if there's anything there. And then
yeah,
there was one floor, we opened it and there's like this weird little office room with a TV and couches and like it was like a break room, but there was no door.
oh,
You could
weird.
yeah, you could only get there from the elevator. So we'd go and
Probably
hang
one of those
out in
little
there.
key scenarios or something like that where you have
Yeah.
to get it by a key. I think the other than some dabbling in substances, I think the worst, like as far as any other property wise trouble, was ding dong ditching. And we ended up ding dong ditching this couple's house a couple times. And finally, the guy had come out and he's like screaming in the street. He's like, "We just had twins. What are you doing? He's waking up." I felt the amount of guilt I felt, never did it again. Like,
I'm
absolutely
gonna
not.
I'm gonna
Not for taking
use
any of
that.
this. There you go. Take it. But no, I felt so bad because this guy like was just at his wits end. And I mean, sure, we were just trying to have a little bit of harmless fun, but at the same time it was like, man, I'm quite a bit older than my siblings, so I grew up, watching them and taking care of them essentially when they were very little. And I'm like, I witnessed and experienced some of that exhaustion, and you have two at once. I feel like an asshole.
You go make them a little basket.
So
I'm so
sorry.
sorry. Here's some melatonin.
Yeah, right. Right. Please just sleep. I'm sorry, apologies. Just some tea. No, I probably should have, but that was enough to just be like, you know what? I'd rather just kind of destroy myself than other people. You know?
Oh, I never ding dong ditched anyone either. I know my brothers did. I was not a bad kid. Like,
Yeah. You're like, I was just home hanging out.
I snuck out of my room to go to my front yard sometimes at night.
I had to do that at my dad's. And it wasn't even to leave anywhere, but like to go and hang out in the backyard because we had this really cool pond and I wouldn't be able to sleep. So we had these alarm systems on the windows
Mhm.
so that if you opened up the windows, it would just beep. It wouldn't necessarily make the alarm go off, but it would beep at the thing in his room. So I'd prop it open during the day so that I could sneak out at night and just go hang
Smart.
out by the little pond. Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. No, it's okay. He will probably never see this.
I never did anything bad at my dad's house. There was one time and I felt so bad about it. We were at the movie theater and I don't even know what movie we were seeing, probably a Star Wars movie, but we had popcorn and I didn't get any the whole movie. And we had gotten a large one to split between our family. So four kids and two adults. And at
Yeah.
the end, I was like crying because I was sad I never got any popcorn. And my dad's like, well, you never asked for any. And I said, well, neither did you. He
You didn't ask
literally
me
bought
either.
the popcorn. That was my one attitude against my dad.
Too funny. Yeah, I try not to cop too much of an attitude with my dad as well. Yeah.
My dad was just so sweet. That's why. Like it was the opposite of why you normally would. He was so kind and like easygoing and easy tempered. That was the one time I ever saw him get really mad and he yelled at me after I said that.
He's like, what the heck?
I literally bought the popcorn. You saying I didn't ask for it? Oh, yeah, I was a very anxious child.
Fair enough. My dad was like there was no physical or anything like he wasn't that, but he was scary in a different way, like in his presence. Um, he was a very intimidating guy and punishments were no joke. Like if I got in trouble, literally my alarm clock was taken out of my room because it had a radio on it. So I'd have to wake up with him at 4:30 in the morning. And he's like,
Yeah.
and you're up. And if you miss school, then it's gonna be worse. And it was things like that. So yeah, I for the most part tried to mind my P's and Q's, but again, self-destructive behavior was a thing at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. My worst was kissing people.
How dare you? How dare you
Ah!
kiss people? I barely got the chance. I wasn't even allowed to go and hang out at girlfriends' houses or anything like that when I was at my dad's. He was very, very strict.
Yeah, my dad was like my dad, he wasn't strict, but we weren't allowed to go to people's houses. We weren't allowed to go outside without him, even as teenagers,
Yeah.
because he had been kidnapped as a baby. And so
Oh
he
my God.
was so scared of us getting taken or something happening to us
Yeah.
that even in our backyard, he had to be there. And I feel like it led to my little and he knows this. He won't ever watch this either, but he knows this. But my little sister just moved out of his house and she's 10 years younger than me, so she's 24.
Okay.
And we didn't think she ever would. But it
Those
was
are
just,
babies. They're sketch.
yeah. And she's a baby babe, being so much younger than us. Because so my siblings, my stepsister was 1 month older than me and my brother was less than 2 years younger than me. And then there was my little sister, 10 years younger than me. So we all were like the same age. And then her,
Yeah.
but her being alone with being so like protected,
Yeah.
even after she was 18, like protected like that.
Yeah.
And it was, and didn't get her license till she was like 21, 22, just because she was so scared to drive because she was scared of getting an accident, like this, very scared of the world.
Yeah.
And he saw like what doing that kind of got, yeah, we went
How it
one
can
way or the
hinder
other.
somebody. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I was very scared like her too. It took me going to, so it kind of took me going back to college when I was 24, about the same age as her. Uh, and realizing that I had a voice and that I could be assertive and that wasn't mean. It wasn't
Yeah.
mean to be assertive. And that's actually a good quality to have.
Yes, yes.
When as a child, I was taught that you're seen and not heard, and well, you shouldn't even be seen. And,
Right. And do as you're told and do as I say
yeah.
and not as I do. And yeah,
And if you do anything to hurt anyone's feelings, like that's bad. You can't tell
yeah,
anyone you don't like a food that they made. You can't tell anyone, like, you can't be honest, basically, is what they.
yeah. No, I have a lot of clients that also deal with the people pleasing tendencies, and they when it's the first few sessions, it's the first even bit of the conversation, it's jarring to them to be like, no, you can tell someone that you don't like something. You can tell someone that it's making you uncomfortable. You can do that and insert yourself, and that doesn't make you some horrible, piece of shit. Like it
Yeah.
just makes you creating boundaries and holding boundaries for yourself, which is healthy.
Yes. And then it also, because we're also taught not to allow other people to, like, other people aren't going to do that either. So we're not taught how to not take offense to other people being honest with us. Like, if I make something like food and people don't like it, we're kind of taught that that's a jab at us.
Yeah,
Not that their taste buds are just different than ours. Like,
right, right. How dare you?
so we'd rather them lie to us than just be honest. Oh gosh, yeah. And so I try to teach my kids that you just be honest. And it was the best thing. Oh my goodness. I was sitting at the kitchen table and my daughter was just with her friend and they had had a sleepover the night before. And they're standing there and one said, I'm really bored of hanging out with you. Why don't you go home and we'll play again tomorrow? And the other one's just like, okay.
I love that. Neat.
That
Okay.
that would have never happened when I was a child. It'd be tears.
Be like, oh my gosh, you hate me. Yeah.
And when my best friend for a really long time, we would go on trips together. And I had just discovered my own neurodivergence and was learning about myself and being overstimulated, and that that's okay to take your time away when that happens. And I could tell she was. And before she even knew it, I was just like, hey, do you want to go back to the hotel for a little bit? I can go and do this thing. Like, I could tell when I asked her if she wanted to do it, it was like she said yes, but didn't really mean it. I'm like, it's okay. Do you want to go back, take a nap or whatever? And I can pick you back up whenever you're ready. She's like, yes.
I absolutely want to do this.
Dropped her off. And an hour and a half later, she texts me, okay, I'm ready again. Yeah. I'm like, perfect. Let's do it.
It's nice. It's nice when even though it's not necessarily our responsibility to regulate someone else's emotions, it's still nice that when we're becoming aware and, able to kind of identify whether we're getting overstimulated and things like that, that we can help someone else who isn't quite there come to that realization that that's okay to be like, this is a lot for me right now and I want to take a break, and then that be totally okay.
And
It's
yeah,
been a
and
good feeling.
after that day, she was okay with saying it to me, realizing I would understand. But other people
Yeah.
don't. Like her husband at the time did not understand.
Mm.
Took total offense to her not wanting to be with him for a little bit. And I'm like, we can just sit in the same room and read if you want. Like, if you want to talk. Like,
That's one of the things I probably love the most about my best friend is that we've almost always had that kind of unspoken understanding for whatever, even before we were aware of our own kind of offness. I don't know how to really words that right now, but that
mhm.
we like to hang out differently than other people like to hang out. Like they always have to constantly engage with each other, whereas we would literally go over to each other's homes and just take a nap. We just go to
Mhm.
sleep. Like we weren't doing anything, or she'd be doing something with her art, and I'd be doing something with my little art, like that. What do they call it? Co-play or parallel play,
Yeah.
um, essentially. But it feels weird to say that as like when you're older, but it is what it is. And we're
Uh,
also very blunt with each other. So even if I go and hang out with her because she's got a new baby and things like that, and I go over and hang out with her, and I love her person. Um, but sometimes he can just be a little bit. He's not my person, and there's a reason for that. Where I'm like, okay, I gotta go. I want to leave now. I'm just like, okay, bye. Yeah.
oh, that's the best. And I don't feel like people actually enjoy not having that. I just think that they don't understand how to do it. And because I feel like if people, like when I was watching The Invention of Lying, have you seen that movie?
I have not. No.
So in the beginning of the movie, everyone is brutally honest. Like everyone's just completely honest. There's no such thing as lying. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
And then a guy realizes he tells like a little lie and he's like, that happened and that wasn't truthful. Like, and so he starts lying and everyone believes him because everyone only
Because
tells
there's
the
no such
truth.
thing as lying. Yeah.
So he like became God and like started a cult, like all this stuff. But
Oh my gosh.
um, but like to me, it was really refreshing, the not lying part.
I was just gonna say when you started talking about that, about how like that sounds like a dream. Never having to guess what someone is thinking or feeling, they'll just tell you.
Like they go on a blind date in the beginning, him and the guy, the main guy and this girl, and she's just like, I do not find you attractive. Like right at the beginning.
Thank you. Let's just good. I'm gonna go F off now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
On to the next one.
On to the next. I that would be nice as far as dating goes, that's for sure. Dating as a spiritualist, I would find very difficult. Because even because people, in talking about that, people think that because I identify as a psychic and a medium, and then I, do all this other stuff, they're like, well, can't you tell right away if someone's a piece of this, that, or the other thing? And it's like, it's not as simple as that. One,
No.
I'm not constantly opening myself up to read somebody all day, every day. That's not healthy spiritual boundaries, for one. And two, that would be just even more so exhausting than the energy that I have to deal with on a daily that I do sign up to deal with. Um, as well as there's a lot of different dynamics to deception and things like that. Someone can have kind of deceptive or sneaky energy, and it's more about them not having the confidence to say what they do want to say or other things like that. So it may not be something malicious, and it may be something kind, but they're nervous or they feel,
Hmm.
embarrassed, or we're operating out of their own wounding and things like that. As well as a lot of people have a hard time grasping the concept that when someone masks for so long, they portray a certain personality. There is a part of them that believes that that's who they are to their core, and they will project that type of energy until you like actually start digging into the energy, which isn't fair to do to somebody without their permission. And a lot of people just don't fully grasp that.
So there's spiritual consent as well.
I like to go off the premise of, I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life, and like not even close.
Mhm.
But for my own personal practices and belief, I find it to be very important to not try to read or dig into somebody's energy without their permission or without their knowledge.
Oh, that makes complete sense. I mean, of course,
Yeah,
there's going to be times where you do for your own protection, but you're not
right,
going to tell them that and tell them anything about their life and what they should do. It's more for you.
right.
And we all do that. We all read certain people's energies, whether it's through their body language, voice, or just a feeling.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault. You can feel more than a lot of other people can.
Yeah, no, those are more of the superficial energies. Like even though like so I offer things like I do like love readings and things like that for people, but even when I'm doing that and they're asking about this other person, I still go in with a premise of asking that person's guides to step forward to only relay energy and information to me that is important for this other person to know, and not something that would be an invasion of privacy.
That's huge.
Yeah,
I didn't ever think about that when readings involve more than the person in front of you.
yeah.
So when you talk about guides, I know for me, I know what it means for me, but for other people listening, what are the guides that you are asking, or how
So
do you
guides
find them?
can oh, so guides can be a lot of different things. Guides can be certain deities in,
Mhm.
from any walks of religious paths. It's really, there's, it gets a little bit difficult trying to explain to somebody that I do not follow Abrahamic religions, but I do have like Archangel Michael, I would consider to be one of my guides. Um, or that I work with Hecate, or that I work with Loki sometimes. Like
Mhm.
it's hard for them to grasp that I don't have a boundary of having to work in one spirit, like one path with certain types of deities, because what people tend to believe that deities are is not quite what they actually are. They have far less rules than people like to put on them. But guides can, apart from deities or gods or whatever, guides can be past loved ones, family members, things, people that you've had, friends that you've had in this life that have passed on. They can be ancestors, people from your bloodline, or from past lives that you've had that come in and help you energetically. It's really important that if someone is going to work with their specific guides, that they take the time, whether through meditative practices, divination tools, however, whatever they're drawn to, but to be able to pinpoint who exactly they're working with and how that guide wants to be addressed and worked with in return. Um, like for me, I consider my little sister to be one of my guides, as well as my grandmother. I also believe that I have a warrior guide that's from one of my past lives where I didn't know him in this lifetime, but he still has ancestral ties to me. Um, so there's a lot of different people's guides are kind of people's guides,
Yeah, yeah.
and it really just depends. Yeah.
So it's what's important to them and what they believe in and what energy it is they are drawing to themselves.
Yes, and I get into a little bit of trouble. Trouble. I mean, you can't really get into trouble with another adult because you're an adult. But in the spiritual community, I get a little bit of pushback because I'm not really big on closed practices. Now, does that mean I think that someone should just start picking practices out of the air and completely disrespecting them? Absolutely not. But I do believe because we have past lives that may not involve our current bloodlines,
Mhm.
and because we do have ancestral history, that if you are drawn to a certain practice, that is most likely a practice that is in fact meant for you, regardless of someone else's rules or stipulations, as long as you're honoring that practice and giving it the respect that it deserves.
Oh, I 100% agree with you.
I don't hear
And
that often.
no, I really do. And I think I've talked on that before is we aren't like right now we are such mutts of so many different things. And so my dad's native, my mom's Scottish, and very also very like Scandinavian, but then we're also Romani. So there's just a whole bunch of different things, and I feel connection to all of them. And so I feel very a lot of connection to the Romani people as well as the Siksika people, which is the tribe that we're from. And then the Apache, which brought us in because we lived near the Apache, and they brought my grandfather in and said, "You're Apache now." Um, and there's different ways to become connected to things as well, besides just bloodlines. There's um, like chosen family as well, and I just after I left the Christian faith, which my next guest that I'm recording with later tonight, we're talking about our religious trauma.
That's always a fun topic.
Ah, we both we both went to Baptist school,
Oh, wow.
uh, and I grew up IBLP, so like the same cult as the Duggars. So,
My stepmother is Mormon or the Church of Latter Day Saints. So yeah, yeah,
ooh,
yeah, I feel yeah.
there's a lot of stuff to uncover there. But after I left that and I started really in college again during that still time of both my mental, emotional, and spiritual awakening, of realizing there's a lot of different pieces of me. I'm not this one thing I've been told my whole life that I am. Is when I really started digging in and discovering and learning. And I wanted to learn from the actual people. I didn't want to learn just from books written by white men. I wanted to learn from the people what was going on, like now, as well as what went on in the past and what the practices are that they are involved in, and see it for myself and be around it and see what felt right to me. And I
would be
really
a good
feel
way to
like,
go about
yes, I feel like people need to, like, we are taught, if you're growing up in like a Christian atmosphere of any denomination, any fundamentalist or non-fundamentalist, you're taught to not learn about them.
it. Right.
Yeah, you're taught like you're basically wrong if you want to learn, even though if you went to like seminary school, you're taught sort of about the other religions.
Right. A very biased view of other religions for sure.
It's the
Um,
Christian view of that religion.
right. And then even if you're not going into that, like even if someone's trying to step into the spiritual community, you'll get a lot of this gatekeeping, because they'll tell you that you can't do this or learn this because it's not your this or that. A great example that I like to use to kind of help somebody broaden their perspective on that would be the documented instances of children who experience past lives. And one example in particular is there was a little boy, don't ask me city or state or dates right now because I literally immediately forget everything I've ever known. But this young man, he was about 8 years old, and he was obsessed with the Chicago fires, like absolutely obsessed with the Chicago fires, and he was convinced that he was an African American woman who had died in those fires. Well, when they actually started like getting into it, having him meet with a psychologist and him breaking down everything, he went into so far into details of the building layout and what floor he was on, and his family members, his daughter, I believe, who was still living. Um, and he was, in fact, like there's nothing that you could convince me otherwise that he was not this woman in a past life, but it's just this little, Caucasian boy in this like little family, like super, I think they were Catholic, like, and they had no ancestral ties like that, but he had still lived a past life as this African American woman and experienced all of that. Who says his bloodline, his spiritual bloodline, isn't just as tied to everything her bloodline was in life as it is in his lifetime now?
I had literal chills while you were talking about that. I've heard of a lot of children, and they usually ignore it. The parents ignore it.
Right.
But the ones that have dug into it have been very accurate, whether it's a recent or a very past life, that there's evidence of that person existing that they say that they were. And they
Mm-hmm.
aren't like a big, like famous person. It was a
Right. It's not,
just a person.
yeah. It's not like something they could have come across in school or anything like that. They're very
Yeah.
obscure relationships. I believe there's another example, of a little boy who had like the most uncanny recognition and was able to map out the entire like layouts of the Titanic and things like that as well. Like it's just fascinating, and it's like you can't tell me that just because not in this lifetime's bloodline that they don't have ties spiritually,
Mhm.
based on other past lives.
I mean, they found in
Um,
our DNA recently that there is like almost memory within our DNA of our relatives before us. And so it's scientific. Like,
Yeah, right. There's science, and I mean, I love that phrase that it's magic is science we don't understand yet.
mhm, it's so
Like
true.
it literally
Like the
is.
herbs, like there's so much within the healing community of healers that I know that's medicinal. Like some of these herbs are using are literally in the medications that they're giving
Yeah,
people, and or
yeah,
where they derived them from originally and then made them more potent or whatever, uh,
right.
or decided to
But the original has
manufacture.
way less side effects.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah,
it just goes
yeah.
back to that modern medicine, just constantly trying to keep people sick for a lot of it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
It's
like if you were to
true.
look at me, you probably wouldn't guess that I have blood ties to Egypt. Like you would not know that, but thanks to ancestry.com and that 20, what is
But
it, 23 and me or whatever,
mhm.
we found that within our DNA. And it's like, well, where the hell did that come from? You would never guess that looking at me. However, throughout my life, I've always been kind of drawn, to the history of Egypt
Mhm.
and Egyptian gods and things like that.
I have as well. It's so funny. When I was growing up, I had all these Egyptian books, and my mom almost was convinced that I had some sort of tie to Egypt. And I actually just put my raw DNA data into another place that digs in a little bit deeper.
Yeah,
And it is so before it just said Africa in general. But that one
right.
dug in deeper, and it's more in the region of where Egypt is,
Yeah.
as well as what were the other places? So, of course, America, we knew that, and Asia, which usually, if you have Native American, it'll also tie to Asia. Uh, and then like the Scandinavian area, like it dug back way back into prehistoric DNA of like where your ancestors migrated from, and it was very
Yeah.
cool.
That is super cool. You'll have to share that link with me
Yes,
because I would love to dive in deeper in that.
there are a lot of paywalls, I will, but you don't have to pay. So there's free stuff that you can get from the website, and you can pull the DNA, the raw data from 23andMe, and put it into their website.
Okay.
And then if you go into the emails every day, and I'll post this link for you guys too. If you go into your emails every day, it'll give you free stuff. So new free traits that you can see. So you don't really have to pay because you'll eventually get them all. So
Okay, that's really cool though. I love
yeah,
that.
I think it was called, let's see, I probably got an email today, unless it's just weekdays. Let's see. But oh, and I also found out that one of my grandparents cheated on the other one through doing that too.
Oh my God. Now
Uh,
we're just getting into the dirt, the drama.
it's called Genome Link, and
Genome link. Okay.
I'll post a link to it. But yeah, you just get your raw data, which you can just Google how to get it from 23andMe. You download it and then you put it into there. So it's
That's really
pretty cool.
cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. I didn't find any long lost relatives, but
That's okay.
I was like, maybe I have a sister out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I don't know if I do, and I'm good.
But my brother's really my brother, and my dad's really my dad, and my mom's
Well,
really
that's
my
good to know.
mom. That they all did it, so it's all like in there with us. But
I don't think I could deny my family if I tried. I look when I was younger, I looked exactly like my mother, and as I've gotten older, I'm the female version of my father. You do those little TikTok filters with a beard. I'm like, this is my dad. This is literally my dad.
I look exactly like my brother when I put the beard on. I even posted
That's
a
awesome.
video because I did it of like my brother at my funeral, like being like, "That's not her." Like, what? When people are saying nice things about about you at your funeral, and then I'm
You're
like,
right.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, that looks just like my brother." So I made another video with pictures of him, and I'm like, "That's that's the same person."
Right? With the same person. That's hilarious.
So, Chris, you make a beautiful woman.
And moral of the story.
But I was curious, what types of readings do you do when someone comes to you for a reading?
So I offer different readings at different price points. Because even though, and I've been told by a lot of other, readers that I'm not necessarily super close with, but that I just engage with relatively regularly, is that, you should charge more. You should charge more. I don't want that. I want to be
Mhm.
accessible for a lot of people. Because what's the point then if someone can't, access you when they really need help? Um, my most popular readings would be the general or the general extended. And you can go to my website and that breaks down the price and the time frames. All of the time limits are the minimum, but I don't really put a limit on myself. I want to get you your message regardless of how long it's really going to take me. So I will also offer general extended readings, and that's pretty open. A lot of times it's just about someone wondering, how they can better spiritually process something, or if their guides are trying to like, they're just seeing a bunch of angel numbers and things like that, and they're like, I don't know how to make sense of this. It's like, okay, well, let's see what they're actually trying to tell you and the information they're trying to give you and things like that. I do quite a few relationship readings, but those are two energy readings. A lot of people use them for like love interests or getting some insights on their current relationships and things like that. But they're also designed for like if you're having a difficult time maybe relating to your mother or your sibling or even coworkers. So I kind of have them, they're labeled as relationships, but within it, it does specify that this is not just for love, it's for just two-party energy type of readings. And then I also offer shadow work readings. Those I really go into more of, breaking down shadow work. Sometimes they start with a reading and then kind of finish out more or less with a bit of spiritual counseling, so that I'm not just like
Here you go.
leaving this person. Yeah, like here's all this, trauma that you're going to have to relive and then just let them go and unravel on their own. I want to make sure that they're in a good headspace and they understand the message and kind of how to work through it, before I like fully let them go. I have been considering offering more of like Akashic records. So this would be like delving into like their past lives, past like their the abilities that they would have, the like, strongest abilities that would be present, depending on how many lives they've lived with these abilities. Just that deep, deep information of the mysteries of the universe. But for right now, I'm just kind of leaving that alone because it does come up sometimes within the shadow work readings, just depending. And then I offer my spiritual counseling. I'm wanting to put back on my site dream interpretations, but those are, I mean, if I'm being honest, they're just kind of more fun for me. They do end up kind of, being accurate when I have done them in the past, but I'm really just fascinated about hearing people's dreams. It's more of like something for me, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I just want to hear your dreams. I want to give you a message with them, but I want to just hear your dreams. Some of them are crazy. Um, it's
I
just amazing how the human mind works.
I talked about one of mine on here. I don't know if it's come out yet, so forgive me, you all, because you've already heard this by now. But I've had this reoccurring dream since I was 5, and I
Okay.
still have it. Oh, it did come out. It was on the tentacle tree episode. So it is crazy. It's weird. So my parents just got divorced when I started, or separated when I started having this dream.
Yeah.
And I have this dream that a T-Rex comes up to my window, and we were in a condo and my bedroom's on the second floor, and he like telepathically tells me he wants me to climb on his back. So I go out my window, I climb onto the T-Rex's back. He eats my family. And then we go like down, we're walking down the street to Taco Bell, and he's like eating all the people along the way, and we get to Taco Bell and we have Taco Bell, and that's the end of my dream. And I have it all the
I love
time.
that. I love that. Can I borrow your dinosaur? No.
Yes.
um, that's so I've never had a super reoccurring dream like that myself. I actually don't dream very much. And even when I had gone through my initial awakening, I was having extremely vivid dreams, but it was becoming a lot. And I more or less kind of made this agreement with spirit. I was like, I'll take daytime visions over, like, just let me friggin' sleep. I just want to sleep so that
It's
when I
my
wake up, I
break.
feel rested. Right? This is my one time where you guys can leave me the hell alone. But my friend Rachel has this reoccurring dream constantly, of plane crashes. She's never on the plane. It's never crashing into anything that she's in. But literally, since we were teenagers, she has constantly told me about these plane crash dreams. And I have my own theories about it, just, that I've tried to relay it to her, but she's not very receptive to those. So it's like, whatever, I just let her talk about them. But she's always witnessing a plane crash in the distance, but she's always in a different location. And it's like, what is that about? Like, why do you keep having these?
Has she looked into if plane crashes have been in those locations?
I don't think she has. No, she doesn't really. And then I also don't follow up. Maybe I
Yeah.
should start following up every time
Just
she
research.
tells me those. Yeah, just I wonder. But no, it's always plane crashes. Um, and she's always like in a different mood in her dream about them. Like sometimes she's just like indifferent, like, oh wow, that's something that happened. And then other times she's like really panicked. Like it's fascinating, is what it is.
That and that they're different but the same. So that's also interesting because mine's always
Yeah.
exactly the same. I'm still 5 years old every time it happens. But I've learned how to lucid dream. And so now when it
Okay.
happens, like I feel like I'm more there and I'm like, yeah, we're riding on this dinosaur now.
Right. Can we go somewhere else to eat?
I
We've
love
had
Taco
Taco Bell
Bell.
3 times this week.
We go to Del Taco now.
We had a Del Taco. There you go. You got to get the potatoes.
Oh, I miss Del Taco so bad.
Right?
They don't they don't have it here.
They don't. They don't have it up here.
Yeah, and when I
That's
was
the truth.
living in Colorado, they have it there, and so I ate there like every week while I was living there.
Okay. Yeah, when I was in Arizona, they have Del Tacos everywhere.
So
Yeah.
good. The red sauce is just I
Right?
can't.
Up here. Just a
So
hard segue into Del Taco.
yeah, and we have listeners in Arizona, New Mexico, and California, and Colorado, and so all of you enjoy your Del Taco.
Right? Rub it in our faces.
Post a picture, tag me in it.
Right?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I was dealing with gastroparesis and my safe food has been Taco Bell. And I'm like,
Oh,
how is
really?
that a safe food for
I
anybody?
was gonna say, I was like, that is surprising. Taco Bell usually gives me the rumblies in the tummies and not in a fun way.
Yeah, everyone says that, but Lee, my co-host, and I, both of us, it's a safe food. We both have gastroparesis, we both have EDS, and we both
Oh,
have MCAS. And I'm like, I wonder if it's just something like they don't have a lot of like allergens in the food. Like, I don't know.
ooh. That could be a thing for sure. Yeah.
It's very basic. And they're like dehydrated beans and that they just put water in. So there's not like any preservatives in the beans. So
Yeah.
it could be that. And I don't usually get, I'm good with their chicken, not so much their
Okay.
beef.
Yeah, their ground beef is, why is it orange? Why? That's always been my question. Why is it leaking orange?
I mean, I'll eat it, but
Right? It's like, if I have to, fine, but there's questions. I have questions.
but their new enchilada burritos, oh, they're so good.
I think the last time I had something from Taco Bell's when they came out with those the grilled cheese burritos where they had the crust cheese
On the
around them.
outside, like, how do you eat that?
I don't with great difficulty and a lot of meth, but it was good. I will say that.
I need to try. I didn't get one because I saw someone else eating it, and I'm like, that just sounds terrible in my hands. But if I eat it with like a fork and a knife, maybe.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say if you have sensory issues, yeah, don't touch it. That's for sure. Like definitely don't touch it. Super a lot.
And I also never wash my hands right before going to Taco Bell and driving up there in my car, and I'm not going to wait till I get home to eat it. So,
See, I've got one of those little hand sanitizer. I put it on my little car gear switcher.
well, you're
It's probably something
smart.
some that's generous of you. I think it's just paranoia, really. And not
I
even about like COVID or anything like that. It's just I don't trust other people and what they touch.
I have my own soap in my backpack, but I should
Oh,
have
there you go.
sanitizer because I'm usually allergic to soap that's in like public bathrooms. So I'd bring my
Okay.
own. Yay, MCAS. But so I just have my own and I just keep it in my bag. I'm like, someone's gonna accuse me of stealing this from whatever store I'm in. But
I mean,
um
if they're that hell bent on the soap.
yeah. But yeah, I have to have like no perfumes in the soap, which usually theirs does have perfumes. And I'm like, so many people are allergic to it. So why do you have that?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. But I would recommend that probably I think it's Germex and because it's child safe. So like they
Oh
don't
yeah,
usually use a lot of fragrances and it's not like really hard and heavy into the alcohol.
less
So
drying. Yeah.
yeah, less drying and it's enough to, make sure you're not eating someone's false sweat. I don't know. That's my that's what my brain goes like someone has scratched their junk and it's touched something I'm touching.
Oh, definitely. Every day.
Yeah, every day.
Oh, that's so funny. Uh, is there so I didn't ask you what your favorite dinosaur is though.
Oh man, that is a question.
Hmm. I
Maybe
have
like a Stegosaurus.
good one.
And I
What
think I think that's honestly because it's my tiny human is
mhm,
in love with dinosaurs.
mm,
And she knows the names. But that's the one she constantly like she's Stegosaurus like immediately. So that's the one I've memorized.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so I would say that one.
Perfect. There's no wrong answer unless you say something that's not not a dinosaur, because there's some that I would still consider dinosaurs, but paleontologists are like, no, that's a blah blah blah, not a dinosaur.
Yeah, a
Uh,
chicken. Our
Perfect. I'll
modern
take it.
day dinosaur.
There was a video I just it came up on my memories of this guy introducing a T-Rex, or no, it was a dinosaur of some sort, to a chicken. Like, this is your great 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 grandson. And they're like, what is that?
What is that? We shouldn't say that out loud.
It's a chicken.
Oh, I love it.
See, that's why it's accurate when you get dinosaur shaped chicken nuggets.
That's, fair dino nuggies. That's the move. That's the move.
They taste better that way.
It's probably what my tiny loves. She prefers the dinos over the little round ones for sure.
I like they had Halloween ones that I got too. So there was little ghost blobs.
Cute,
I'm like, this just looks like a chicken nugget.
right? No, it's a ghost. Believe
Oh,
us. For
and
marketing.
bats. The
Oh,
bats
cute
looked
bats.
a little batty. The ghosts just looked lazy.
They're like, just throw the regular chicken nugget. We'll never know.
Well, is there anything else you would like to bring up while we have you on here?
I am currently trying to raise about $1,800 because I am currently in a little bit of a kerfuffle trying to get my tiny human back. So if anyone is willing to want to donate or contribute to that at all, you can find Cash App and Venmo through my website. And if you put two crows on there, I'll know that you're from the podcast, and I am happy to offer a reading or a spiritual item of equivalent value in return.
Oh, wonderful. You guys do that.
Do it.
We love helping people. Lee, my co-host, actually went through some housing troubles, and we were able to raise money for her, which was wonderful. Got some repairs done on her RV that she's been living in. So yes, if there's some life things that we do not need to mention in order for you to help, you don't have to know what's going on, that would really, really be helpful to have that come in. And like she said, she's willing to give you a reading or something of equal value for that money. Or if you want to schedule a reading to help too, that would
Yes.
be helpful. So um, I'm going to challenge you guys to do a reading. That's your
Right,
homework.
don't be scared. I find that a lot of people that like don't really dabble into this, they get really nervous about the readings. I promise I don't bite unless you ask.
What kind of spiritual objects do you sell? Because some people are into
Um,
just having an object as well.
so I personally, I am working on getting like the bulk crystals and things like that in my shop. However, I take the center cuts of seashells and I embed them with crystals, botanicals, and then encase them in UV resin. They work great for charging tarot decks. Because of their finish, they work great as like a worry stone. I
Oh,
actually just made
yeah.
a Slytherin themed one for someone to hang in their car on their rear view mirror.
So you do
So
custom ones as well?
yeah, no, I prefer to do custom. I don't. I do have some on deck,
Hmm.
um, but I prefer to do customs based on the kind of intentions and things that you want to bring into your life. And those are all showcased on my website. Some of the examples that I have. And if you just poke the witch, if you scroll down to the bottom of the site, I'm the witch. You'll be poking me. And just tell me what you're
Poke.
kind of looking for. Yeah, poke. And tell me what you're kind of looking for. That price that I offer on the site it encompasses a lot. So if you just let me know, favorite color and again, intentions and things like that, I'll be able to come up with a piece uniquely for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I have never heard of that before, the shells.
I'm the only one that does it, I think, because I've looked it up. I've seen people do like the shell lids and then a little bit of that of putting
Hmm.
resin or other things in them, but never the center cuts or like pendants. They'll do the UV, but I think I'm still to this day the only one who does embedded center cut shells.
And do you recharge them like you would your crystals?
So I embed, regardless of whatever stone or color or anything that you want in them, every single piece comes with little bits of selenite in them. So they are self cleansing and self-charging, but
Yes.
they are strengthened also because it's UV resin. They are strengthened by the sun. If you live in Arizona or Texas or some of those very hot places, please don't leave it out because it will
It
get too
melt.
hot and it can potentially melt, or at least warp a little bit, at
Mhm.
very least. But they are strengthened by the sun, which I find to just be beautiful. And then, of course, if you prefer to cleanse with moonlight, they work for that as well. And they are waterproof, so you can cleanse with water, anything you really want.
That's amazing. And then how do you cleanse your tarot decks? You just put it like with the tarot deck?
I just set them right on top, like the same as someone would put like a chunk of, amethyst or tourmaline and set it on top of their deck. That's you just set it right on top.
What are your feelings about funny tarot decks?
What is funny tarot decks? What do you mean?
So I have a cat tarot deck, a zombie one, and a Disney villains one.
Oh, I love them. Especially being an intuitive reader myself.
Hmm.
I draw like I know the traditional meanings of cards, and sometimes those energies do come through, but more often to not, the message that I get from the card is going to be determined by the image that I'm drawn to on that card or the surrounding cards and kind of how they all flow together. So I think they're an amazing way of self-expression. I actually have one of my own decks that I sell. It's not a tarot deck, it is a messages deck.
Hmm. Oh, I
But I
want a
think
messages deck. Oh, I'm gonna look.
it's called the Fuck About and Find Out deck.
Yes.
It's a very direct deck, and it also has some movie quotes and just some things that were more personal to me. It was a personal deck I never thought I was going to release, but enough people asked about it that I've decided to actually make it a whole thing now. But I love the silly decks because again, there's goes back to that gatekeeping. I don't think there's a
Hmm.
wrong way to connect with a deck and to connect to energy. What feels right for you is right.
Well, some people use just playing cards. So,
Yeah, no, yeah.
yeah, because they correlate with playing cards. So,
Yeah,
so all of you Christians using playing cards, you're actually using tarot decks.
right. Magic,
I mean, you guys celebrate frickin' Yule, so we're not even going to talk about that.
right? You, Santa is Odin, by the way,
Yeah, we don't
in
talk
case you
about
didn't
that.
know.
Oh, Easter Bunny? What?
Right? That's a whole different. It's a little X-rated.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, we're
He's hiding eggs somewhere else. You just don't.
I
Right?
love
Shifty
it.
eyes.
I love it so much. And they tried to take Halloween too, but then we didn't let them and they got sad. So now they hate
Oh
us.
yeah, what was that? It was the Jesus Ween or whatever they were doing. And
Jesus Ween.
it's like this is
But
what you're
even
doing.
but they
There's
even
no way that
tried to combine Samhain with Day of the Dead or All Saints Day.
which why? Samhain is more of a tradition on celebrating the harvest and nourishing your loved ones and your community before you go into the winter months. It's completely different from celebrating, whereas Dias de los Muertos, where you're celebrating the
Mhm.
ones that have passed on and acknowledging them specifically. It's not that we don't incorporate some things like that, but it's more about the seasons. It's a celebration of the changing in the season. So it's like, stop trying to integrate everything because we're not all doing the same stuff.
And Dia de los Muertos, they also, so it's funny. I love this about history, but I love that. So the Spaniards, when they came down and tried to
Catholicized, yeah.
Catholicize Mexico, they were like, well, there was a lot of different types of like voodoo and different things going on down there, and so they made voodoo priests Catholic priests to try to make them Catholic. And to this day, voodoo priests down in Mexico are Catholic priests.
It's crazy.
Just to be like, oh, well, we're not going to fully be able to make you Christian, but we'll just pretend you're Christian.
We'll just pretend. Well, and they like to put their nose up at a lot of pagan and other traditions like that. But it's like you celebrate, like if you are a part of the
Mhm.
Catholic faith, you're cannibalizing. You're celebrating cannibalism essentially every
Yes. Oh
time
my God.
you're
Yes.
drinking the blood of Christ and you're eating the body of Christ. That's that's in fact frowned upon in most things. We're not doing that. We're not eating people.
And they really believe, so if you're really like fundamentalist Christian or Catholic and a lot of the different sects of things, you
Hmm.
believe that it turns into flesh of Christ while you're digesting it, or blood of Christ while you're digesting it. So you really are, it's not just symbolism to some people, they believe that.
No. Yeah, no, they believe it's a form of integration. It's like,
Hmm.
so let's just all agree that we're all a little crazy in our own little way and like, let's just let each other live. It's funny. I literally just saw a TikTok maybe about a half hour before I started getting ready to come onto this podcast where this guy was talking about how the kids from his local Catholic church were having a lemonade stand. And he's like, so if wine is the blood of Christ, what's the lemonade?
I wonder if
And
they
I'm
would
like, that's
sell it if they're like,
terrible.
drink the pee of Jesus.
The pee of Jesus. That's advertisement right there. That's marketing.
I think they could go for 50 cents instead of a quarter with this.
Right? Oh my God. I
Oh,
love it. This has been
yeah.
such a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting me.
Thank you for coming on. And I will put all your links below. If you did you add in like Cash App or anything, or is that in your links?
So, yeah, so if you go to my website, right at the very top, you'll see a button that says Find Me Other Places, as well as the readings themselves linked directly to my Cash App.
Perfect. I will have that all in there for everyone on all the platforms. If you are listening on audio, this is also on video. So any of my episodes with a guest will also have video. The ones that are just me usually don't have video. But I'm boring to watch alone. So
I'm sure you're not.
no, it's just a lot of editing when I'm like trying to tell a story and my dyslexia is so bad.
Right? You're just everywhere. Somehow we've looped around in three different stories. Where are we?
If it's a 30-minute episode, you guys, it probably took me an hour and a half to record it.
I can't say anything. Even in the beginning of this, when I was trying to talk about food, I'm like, wait a minute, what was the point? Where did it go?
I tried to, oh my gosh, I was trying to say amortization, and I have worked in mortgages for a long time, and I just switched to leasing.
Yeah.
And they were talking about something, and it was so much like mortgages. I'm like, oh, so it's like they're re-amortizing. See, I still can't say it now. Um, they're lien so that they're ending at the same time as another lien. So they're
Yeah.
making bigger payments, and the lien's going to be for a shorter amount of time because
Yeah.
they're probably going to buy it out at the end. And I was trying to say that word. So on a group call, and I'm like, I can't, you guys. Sorry. I
I
promise.
never mind. I'll spell it. Look it up.
I know what I'm talking. It's correctly in my mind when I'm thinking about it.
It's that mind mouth connection that'll get us.
Doesn't happen. Just doesn't work. All right. So here's my awkward outro for you all because we know that I love a good awkward outro. I will post all the links below. Please help Brie out. I promise you, you don't know what it's about, but she could really use the funding. And again, you will get something for helping. She's not just asking for charity, but if you do just want to give some money, that is perfectly acceptable as well. You can tip her for being on the podcast. There you go. And we adore you. I will have my Patreon below as well, and the email if you think that you would make a good guest or you know somebody who would be a good guest on the show, whether it's this one or Frightening Frowen. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Dragon Ball Z. Just kidding, Crow out.